When most people think about retirement, they tend to focus on the obvious things: how much they've saved, what kind of returns they're earning, and whether they can afford to stop working at a certain age. And while those things are important, they only tell part of the story. You go from growing your assets to drawing income from them. And in that transition, a new set of risks begin to show up. And they don't show up as a single bad decision or a single bad year, but rather as small, gradual pressures that can quietly build over time and eventually start to impact your plan in a meaningful way. My name is Peter Guidote, Chartered Accountant and Certified Financial Planner at CG Wealth Management. And in this video, we will walk through 5 of the most important and overlooked risks that can derail a retirement plan, even if everything looks solid on the surface. So let's get started. The first risk is something called sequence of returns risk, and is one of the most important and least understood risks in retirement. Because when you are working and saving, the order of your investment returns does not really matter all that much. If the market goes down one year and up the next, you are still contributing, you're still buying in, and over time things tend to balance out. But once you retire, that dynamic completely changes. You are no longer adding to your portfolio, you are withdrawing from it. And that means the timing of those returns becomes extremely important. If you experience poor market returns early in retirement, while you are also drawing income from your portfolio, you can end up locking in those losses in a way that is very difficult to recover from. Because you are not just dealing with a temporary decline, you are actually taking money out at the same time, which leaves less capital in place for the recovery when the markets eventually bounce back. And over time, that can have a significant impact on how long your portfolio actually lasts. Now, what's interesting is that 2 people can have the exact same average returns over time and still end up with very different outcomes in retirement, depending on the sequence of those returns. So it's not just about how your portfolio performs, it's about when it performs, especially in those early years. The second risk is longevity risk, which simply means the risk of outliving your money. And while that might sound like a good problem to have, it actually creates a very real challenge when it comes to planning. Because the truth is, you do not know how long your retirement is going to last. For some people, it might be 20 years. For others, it could easily be 30 years or more. And the longer that time horizon becomes, the harder your plan has to work to sustain your lifestyle. What makes this risk particularly difficult is that it is not something you can predict or control. You cannot choose how long you live, but your financial plan has to be able to support you either way. That means your income needs to last, your investments need to keep working, and your decisions need to hold up over a much longer period of time than most people initially expect. And this is where certain planning strategies can help mitigate that risk, whether that's adjusting your withdrawal rate, structuring your income more carefully, or in some cases, delaying benefits like CPP, QPP, or OAS to increase your guaranteed income later in life. But it is important to understand that these strategies are not one size fits all, and what makes sense for one person may not be appropriate for someone else, depending on their situation. And if you are unsure which approach makes sense for you, this is where working with a financial planner can really add value. And if you'd like the second opinion, feel free to reach out to our team using the link in the description below. The third risk is inflation risk, which is the gradual loss of purchasing power over time. And what makes this risk particularly challenging is that it does not feel dramatic in any single year. Prices tend to rise slowly, and often in ways that are easy to overlook. But over the course of 20 or 30 years of retirement, those increases can have a meaningful impact on your lifestyle. Because even a relatively modest level of inflation can significantly reduce what your money is actually able to buy. And this is where certain strategies can help. So for example, maximizing government benefits like CPP, QPP, and OAS can provide some built-in protection against inflation, since those payments are indexed over time, and delaying them can increase the base amount that you receive for life. But at the same time, it is important to be careful about being too conservative with your investments. Assets like GICs can absolutely play a role in your portfolio, But if they make up too large a portion, especially after tax, they may struggle to keep up with inflation over the long term. So while they can provide stability, they need to be balanced with other parts of the portfolio that have a higher potential to grow and keep up with the growing cost of living. The fourth risk is withdrawal strategy risk, which is the risk associated with how you actually draw income from your portfolio. And this is where we often see planning gaps, especially when it comes to larger registered accounts like RRSPs. So if someone retires with a sizable RRSP and does not have a clear strategy for drawing it down, what can happen is that the account continues to grow over time, but so does the future tax liability attached to it. In some cases, it can actually make sense to start drawing from that RRSP earlier in retirement before taking benefits like CPP, QPP, or OAS, allowing those benefits to grow in the background while you gradually reduce the size of the RRSP. Now, this approach is often referred to as early meltdown strategy, where you are intentionally drawing down registered assets in those early years to manage taxes over time rather than deferring them. Because if that planning is not done, what we often see is that a large portion of that RSP eventually gets taxed at very high rates, either through large withdrawals later in life or potentially all at once when the accounts are passed on. And by that point, a significant portion of that capital can end up going to taxes instead of to your family. Different strategies may involve drawing from registered accounts, non-registered investments, or tax-free accounts at different points in time, depending on your situation. And this is where working with a financial planner becomes important, because their role is to help you determine the most efficient and appropriate way to structure those withdrawals based on your income needs, your tax situation, and your long-term objectives. The fifth risk is what we would call lifestyle risk. Most retirement planning focuses heavily on the financial side, but much less attention is given to what day-to-day life is actually going to look like once you stop working. And that transition can be more significant than people expect. You go from having a structure, routine, and a clear sense of purpose tied to your work to having a completely open schedule. And that shift can take time to adjust to. And for some people, that can lead to uncertainty around how they want to spend their time, what they want their days to look like, and what actually brings them fulfillment in this next phase of life. And while this may not seem like a financial risk at first, it often shows up that way over time because it can influence spending patterns, whether that is spending more than expected in the early years of retirement, or in some cases, holding back and not enjoying the retirement that you work towards. So while the numbers are important, they only tell part of the story. And this is why we often encourage people to spend some time thinking through both the financial and the lifestyle side of retirement. Because when those two are aligned, it becomes much easier to build a plan that not only works on paper, but actually works for you in real life. So when you look at all of this together, these are the types of risks that need to be understood and built into a retirement plan from the start. Taking the time to think through these areas can make a meaningful difference in how your plan holds up over time and how confident you feel in the decisions you are making. If you would like clarity around your own situation, you can book a free 30-minute strategy meeting with a member of our team by scanning the QR code on the screen or by using the link in the description below. Sometimes having that second perspective can help you move forward with more confidence. So remember to be kind to yourselves and to others, and I'll see you in our next video.